All right, Cliff, thank you so much for being here today. If we could just get started, if you could state your name and a little bit about your organization.
Yeah, my name is Cliff Mayotte, and I'm the Education Program Director for Voice of Witness. And Voice of Witness is a nonprofit that works to advance human rights by amplifying the voices and stories of people who have been impacted by and are fighting against injustice. And we do that through two main programs, our oral history book series and our education program. That creates curriculum for all the books in the series, focused obviously on social justice and human rights education. And we also conduct trainings and workshops around the world in what we call our empathy-based, ethics-driven approach to storytelling and oral history. And we work with school districts, we work with other nonprofits, we consult with organizations, and we work with everybody from older middle school students up through working adults and grad students. And we really support a wide range of educators and advocates and students. And I guess that would be the profile.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here this morning. So I know you touched on it a little bit, but our first question is, please describe a little bit about your human rights education and training, work.
Yeah, really what we do, it's all based on centering narratives and centering the stories of marginalized voices around the world, in classrooms, in communities, in families. You know, the application of it is really, really broad. And we really feel like an understanding of a human rights issue or a social justice issue is incomplete without hearing firsthand accounts from people who are directly impacted by these issues, whether it's migration, displacement, the criminal justice system. We really feel like these voices need to be centered for us to really build a sense of dignity, build a sense of resilience, and really help build power in communities by centering voices. Centering voices, as I said, that are not heard. And I think one of the ways we like to describe our work is through a quote by the writer Arundhati Roy. And she says, "There's no such thing as the voiceless. There's only the deliberately silenced or the preferably unheard." And that's a real foundational idea for us. And all of our trainings and all of our workshops and all our curriculum is based on narrative, based on listening to narrative, based on creating narrative, our approach to doing that is kind of flipping the script. And sort of the person who is sharing that story, they're the experts. They're the experts in their own lives, their own experiences, and we're learning, and we're the willing recipients of those stories, and we amplify them in ways that we hope will serve as an advocacy tool, but also provide opportunities for people to self-advocate, you know, for us to get out of the way and let them express their own stories in their own words. And so that's kind of connected to the human rights piece, and really the idea of, to me, human rights education is founded in dignity and teaching and learning around human dignity and creating space for that. And for Voice of Witness, it's through narrative and through stories. And it could be a story about a human rights issue or a human rights crisis or a social justice issue, but it could also be a joyful family story, or bringing people together in ways that feel as though that, I guess it's making space for people to express the fullness of their humanity. And that, to me, is very much a human rights issue and a human rights education piece.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, the work you're doing is really, really great. So thank you so much. So our next question is, what is one aspect of your human rights education work that you're especially proud of?
I think a couple things. We create curriculum for all of the books in our series, and the curriculum is free and downloadable. And since we've started recording and tracking, our curriculum for our various books has been downloaded more than 5,000 times. And our most recent book, called How We Go Home, Narratives from Indigenous North America, came out last October, and it's already been downloaded 500 times. So even like a conservative estimate, that's reaching 3,000 or 4,000 students who are engaging with Indigenous stories and Indigenous experience. And so that's one thing that I'm especially proud of. I'm also very proud of, we have a book placement program called the Sharing History Initiative. And basically we raise money every year and we get funding to basically give away class sets of Voice of Witness books to public schools and nonprofit advocacy groups all around the country. And since we started that program, we've shipped out about 7,000 books, or no, I think between 5,000 and 7,000 books. And so, because we really believe in this idea, it's like, well, people can't engage in Voice of Witness unless we create opportunities for them to do that. And so we started this, very simple idea, just a very big gesture. It's like people won't engage if they don't have the books, if they don't have access to the curriculum. And we work exclusively with public schools. And so we're focused on supporting what we call our narrator community students. So the students, the teachers and students that are part of the communities that our stories from our books are coming from, we want to make sure they have access first and foremost to Voice of Witness books and educational resources. So that's something I'm quite proud of as well. And I guess one other thing too is that we've worked a lot over the last 4 or 5 years to support multilingual learners and using oral history as a communication tool to build language skills through narrative and through social justice storytelling, basically.
Amazing. That's such great work, and I really appreciate especially going and donating and giving the resources and access to these students. It's really great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So on to our next question. Why do you think human rights education and training is important?
Well, I think I kind of touched on it before. I think it's about dignity, and it's teaching and learning about human dignity. And especially now where there's so much messaging and so much chaos around taking people's dignity and robbing people of their dignity and othering people. And I think human rights education is the complete opposite of that. I think it's about teaching the truth about history, teaching the truth about what's going on. And I think I had a colleague say that, the truth is always age appropriate. I mean, you find different ways to express it and different ways to communicate that. But I think that's a really important piece. And I think people need to hear, students and teachers and everybody needs to hear that, like using the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as an example, people get messages that run counter to what it says in the Declaration of Human Rights. It's like, oh, you do have a right to education, you do have a right to shelter, you do have a right to this. And people are especially in this kind of late stage capitalist society, there's this sense of like, no, nobody owes you anything, you're not owed anything. You don't really, unless you can afford it, you don't deserve it. Or and it's kind of like that's created such an incredible power imbalance. And I think human rights education is a way to, I think, acknowledge difference, but I think it's also a way to engage in education that celebrates what connects us also. And I think human rights education is about seeing the connections between people and cultures and kind of illuminating the fact that we are all connected and we're responsible for each other.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that answer. So a little bit on the lines of connectivity, how has your connection to HRE USA and being involved in this network made a difference to you and your work?
Well, I think on a really practical, simple level, in 2017, the Voice of Witness Education Program won the HRE USA Educators Award. And that really helped to kind of raise our profile. And it really helped with, visibility and people, coming to Voice of Witness who maybe hadn't heard of us before, but maybe had a connection through HRE USA or through NCSS and then HRE USA. So that really helped with, increase our visibility and reach. And I think another really practical thing that it's done for me personally and for Voice of Witness is just a network of colleagues to connect with and speak with and share ideas with and help, signal boost, signal boosting each other's projects or initiatives or programs. It's like, in the HRE newsletter that I just read this morning, there's a signal boost because there's a piece about an oral history cookbook, like a guide for students in the HRE USA newsletter. So it's like things like that really, really are helpful, but also, you know, there's people on the other end. It's not just, oh, this organization. Like there's like 8 or 10 people who are part of HRE USA that I know, that I am in contact with, that I speak with, whether, it could be Nancy Flowers, it could be, Lena Lindbergh, it could, any just people that I feel are part of a community that I can connect with. And so the community piece is tangible and really, really helpful.
Awesome. And thank you so much for being part of that community. We're really glad to have you here and in the network and to be connected with everybody. Thank you.